Big Meech once commanded a reverence that went well beyond the streets. Even while locked up, his name stayed on people's tongues, invoked by rappers and kept alive by fans fascinated with the BMF legend. So, it made sense to expect a triumphant return after his release. Yet the reality proved far messier. Splintered loyalties, canceled events, and powerful figures playing him against each other. In a world where appearances reigned supreme, Meech discovered that building a grand comeback demanded more than just a storied past. Everywhere Meech turned before prison, he'd been met with praise and support. High-profile rappers name-dropped him, and the BMF saga attracted widespread curiosity. Upon his release, he assumed that same energy would translate into immediate backing. Early signals supported that hope. Rick Ross, known for flaunting wealth and connections, seemed eager to align with him. Yet the deeper Meech stepped into the industry, the more he realized how few of these admirers were prepared to actually lift him back onto a pedestal. Promoters who had once bragged about knowing Meech vanished when real money or commitments came into play. Rumors suggested that Rick Ross's interest stemmed more from a rivalry with 50 Cent than from genuine admiration for BMF's legacy. Instead of returning as a conquering hero, Meech found himself navigating a maze of unspoken agendas. If anyone carried the BMF torch during Meech's absence, it was 50 Cent. By producing a TV series centered on the BMF story, 50 introduced Meech to a new audience. He also invested in Lil Meech's acting classes and career, making the younger Meech a face of the brand. Naturally, many believed Big Meech would honor this significant support by staying close to 50 upon release. But Meech's pivot toward Rick Ross raised eyebrows. To an outsider, it looked like disloyalty. To 50 Cent, it signaled a breach of trust he'd carefully nurtured. Given 50's track record of responding to perceived betrayals with cold precision, insiders wondered how long it would be before he made Meech feel the consequences. One of Meech's big moves to reclaim the spotlight was a welcome home concert. Huge promises buzzed around it. Special guests, top-tier artists, and a sold-out arena. People assumed it would mark Meech's full return. Yet just hours before showtime, the venue pulled the plug, citing unforeseen circumstances. Fans were livid, and fingers started pointing in every direction. Some whispered that 50 Cent had a hand in shutting it down, while others blamed disorganized promoters. Whatever the truth, Meech wound up on social media looking desperate, defending an event that never happened. Instead of a moment of redemption, he became the subject of industry gossip. While Big Meech grappled with a shaky comeback, Lil Meech found himself torn. He owed his budding Hollywood career to 50 Cent, who had paid for his training and given him a starring role. But Lil Meech also wanted to stand by his father, who had spent years behind bars dreaming of regaining BMF's former glory. Leaked messages painted a complicated picture. Lil Meech acknowledging financial help from Rick Ross, even as he tried to reassure 50 of his loyalty. Critics saw this as a looming crisis. If Lil Meech stood too close to Ross, he risked alienating 50 Cent. If he stayed loyal to 50, he risked disappointing his father. Navigating this tense triangle might determine whether Lil Meech flourishes or loses everything he's worked for. Big Meech's early release stirred up old rumors of deals with federal agents. Key to these suspicions was Tammy Cowens, who had Meech's power of attorney and allegedly collaborated with the authorities. Court documents suggested that her actions contributed to Meech's reduced sentence, raising the question of whether he'd known about her role. Some believed Meech's freedom came at the expense of an associate, Cuffy, who ended up behind bars. If Meech had truly stayed faithful to BMF's code of loyalty, how could he explain such convenient leniency from the feds? While he called the rumor slander, skeptics saw potential evidence of betrayal. For an empire built on unbreakable trust, these whispers challenged the very myth that had helped solidify Meech's legendary status. Big Meech's release gave new fuel to a decade-long rivalry between 50 Cent and Rick Ross. They'd been locked in a public tug-of-war, trading lawsuits, tracks, and social media jabs for years. Ross saw Meech's return as a chance to align himself with a storied brand and undermine 50. He teased a big-budget BMF film, insisting it would overshadow 50's TV adaptation. 50, never one to react meekly, let his track record speak for itself. He had a television empire that soared on the success of his Power and BMF franchises. If Ross believed he could claim Big Meech's loyalty, he was welcome to try. Though 50's subtle moves often proved more lethal than open confrontation, Meech, caught in the middle, might have grossly underestimated how these two powerhouses manipulated narratives. From a distance, 50 Cent seems to be the biggest winner. His BMF series thrives on the controversies swirling around Meech's comeback, drawing ever more viewers. Rick Ross, on the other hand, keeps his name in the headlines by flashing big promises of new projects and showing he can attract, or at least claim, Meech's allegiance. For Big Meech, the picture is less rosy. He wanted a seamless path back to influence, but each failed plan broadcast weakness. The canceled concert undermined his credibility, and allegations of snitching poke at his credibility in an arena where loyalty is everything. Meanwhile, Lil Meech lives on a knife's edge, trying to satisfy a father he loves and a mentor who holds the keys to his career. Any misstep could leave him with neither. All this chaos raises the question: is BMF, once revered for unity, now headed for a legacy defined by power plays and messy betrayals? With so many competing agendas, Meech risks finding himself isolated. If Rick Ross's support wavers, or if Ross never intended to do more than stir the pot, Meech could be left in limbo. The ties to 50 Cent appear frayed, and the public humiliations keep piling up, threatening to redefine him as a figure of ongoing drama rather than a king returning to reclaim his throne. Lil Meech's situation remains equally precarious. If 50 Cent decides Lil Meech is aligned with the enemy, he might cut off the opportunities that gave Lil Meech credibility in Hollywood. It's no easy choice. Fatherly loyalty weighs heavily, yet so does the future he's built through 50's resources. As for Ross, his repeated jabs at 50 Cent garner attention, but deliverables remain slim. If he doesn't follow through, people might dismiss him as someone who latches onto hot topics for clout. Meanwhile, 50 stands at the center of a media ecosystem he understands better than anyone, effortlessly spinning headlines and controversies into bigger ratings and brand expansions. Despite all this strife, Meech still has the name recognition to bounce back, provided he stabilizes his alliances. But each new rumor and failed initiative compounds doubt about whether BMF's famed loyalty remains, or if it died long before Meech ever stepped out of that prison yard. Big Meech's release was supposed to be a triumphant second act for a man whose aura transcended the criminal world to become a pop culture icon. Instead, it's become a cautionary tale. The rap business has changed, and loyalty is less about street codes and more about who controls the narrative. He's caught between 50 Cent, who revived BMF for a huge new audience, and Rick Ross, who leverages Meech's name to jab at 50. Meanwhile, Lil Meech is stuck in the middle, his acting career indebted to 50, his lineage tied to a father grasping for lost power. The allegations that Meech exchanged information for an early release gnaw at his reputation, while the canceled concert shows that hype alone can't secure a warm industry welcome. However this unravels, BMF's story has morphed into a high-stakes balancing act. Big Meech must rebuild without sabotaging the father-son bond or eroding any goodwill left in the industry. If he can't reconcile his alliances and address the controversies, the brand he once led might dissolve into endless feuds and rumors, forever overshadowing the legends that built his name in the first place.